Hello and thank you for joining us here in the European Parliament in Strasbourg. In this short report, we will bring you a brief summary of the plenary highlights for the EPP group. We begin with a debate on the situation in Nigeria. Following the Christmas Day bombings by the Islamist sect Boko Haram, the situation has spiraled out of control. This extremist group has been waging an insurgency against Nigeria's government since 2009. In the last 6 months, they have widened their targets beyond the authorities to include Christian worshippers, and just recently 2 European hostages were killed. However, Italian member Mario Mauro believes the real issue is not so much to do with ethnic or religious tension, but with individual political agendas related to Nigeria's position as the world's 8th largest exporter of oil.
La strategia cioè dei gruppi fondamentalisti.
It is true that fundamentalist groups are wrongly using religion in order to be able to control energy resources.
Dal punto di vista del controllo delle risorse energetiche, per esempio.
At the same time, they don't face a serious opposition from a particularly indecisive government.
Da parte di un governo che sembra particolarmente indeciso.
He therefore called on Parliament to take a firm stance. Irish member Gay Mitchell insisted on greater transparency in the country's security efforts in order to detain those responsible for such violent acts.
The actions of Boko Haram group are outrageous and fanatical acts of hatred, for which there must be a commitment to judicial accountability. And I would urge the High Representative to put in place now arrangements to ensure that they know they will be called to account.
The members also asked the Commission to coordinate its efforts with the United States and other donors to send aid and assist development in the areas affected by this conflict, so that Nigeria may fulfill its role as a leading country in Africa. In February, the extreme far-right party in the Netherlands, known as the PVV, set up a controversial website. It encourages people to air their grievances against Eastern European workers. This caused outrage and indignation within the EU, and this week EPP Group Chairman Joseph Daul, who has publicly condemned such a xenophobic website, insisted on a debate in Parliament.
We know
very well that discrimination, racism and xenophobia have led to the most atrocious dark pages of our history. There are colleagues among us who spent 60 years ago fought and died for the liberation of Europe and the Netherlands.
Il y a 60 ans se sont battus et ont péri pour la libération de l'Europe et des Pays-Bas.
Can we honestly stay silent and not answer the incitement to hatred of certain parties?
The management of the website is subject to national legislation. The EPP Group therefore calls on Dutch enforcement authorities to stop the promotion of discriminatory practices by this website immediately. In particular, President Daul deplored Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte, who has yet to break his silence and explain his government's position.
Above all and beyond the empty chair policy, what I regret is that the Dutch Prime Minister is refusing to distance himself from a site which is racist, violent and dishonest. The EPP Group reiterates its moral plea to the Prime Minister of the Netherlands to clearly condemn this offending site immediately.
A condamné clairement et rapidement le site incriminé.
Commissioner Viviane Reding endorsed the views of Chairman Daul and commended him for his strong reaction. She highlighted the fact that EU citizens have the right to move freely from one member state to another, to live, work and study wherever they like.
All governments have the duty to ensure that EU citizens from other member states feel welcome. They must explain to their citizens the important benefits the free movement of citizens has for the economy and for our societies. Incitement to xenophobic hatements is an offence in Europe. So it is for the Dutch authorities to fully investigate the lawfulness of this website under Dutch law and under Union law.
In its resolution, the EPP Group also calls for better integration of immigrants through open dialogue between the EU institutions, member states and civil society on the social and political challenges which arise through intra-EU migration. The roadmap to move towards a competitive, low-carbon economy in 2050 is part of Europe's 2020 strategy. It does not focus on the short-term measures, but sets a series of long-term policy plans in the field of transport, energy and climate change. In a draft report, it is proposed to make the reduction targets more ambitious. The EPP group suggested to improve the report, and Shadow Rapporteur Romana Jordan urged the members to consider the difficult times in which we are living and the knock-on effects of the financial and economic crisis.
What we really need, and investors really need, are new milestones after year 2020. We have to take into account realistic circumstances of the society, and this means that we are facing with strong financial and economic crisis, that we are fighting for jobs from day to day, and that we actually achieved already very big emissions reductions. And this should be also reflected in the roadmap.
In particular, the EPP proposed not to set aside or eliminate the allowances for the recalibration of the emissions trading system.
If we will recalibrate it or support this recalibration, then we should change also our emission reduction goals. But these goals will be changed only because of Energy Efficiency Directive.
These views were acknowledged by plenary in the continued quest to ensure stability and international competitiveness for Europe. That's it for this week's plenary session in Strasbourg. Join EPP TV again next week in Brussels for more information on the group's activities. In the meantime, you can keep up to date on our website, eppgroup.eu. Thank you for watching.